In more recent years, you've come to play very integral roles in a couple of very big film franchises, and the first, of course, being Christopher Nolan's Batman movies, Batman Begins, and The Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. And what's so interesting, among other things, is that as Jim Gordon, you're sort of playing the only truly honorable man in the story. Is that a nice change of pace for you?
Well, I was saying getting older, you're not. No, yes, I mean, and that was one of the, again, as I said earlier, you're at the mercy of the imagination of those people that want to work with you. And my hat goes off to Chris Nolan because he didn't cast me as a bad guy. He cast me as Jim Gordon, and it was a lovely gear shift. It was like a changing down, And I knew acting opposite Heath, God rest his soul, that he was doing something really special. I mean, you could feel it, you could see it, and it was palpable on the set. But I'd sit there as in my drab clothes as Jim Gordon with my big mustache. And I would think, rather you than me, kid. I'd done the bouncing off the walls, and I'd sit there in admiration of his total relaxation, unpredictability, complete and utter freedom. Heath was so free as an actor. It was extraordinary, and but that's an example of just looking at someone. I look at Mr. Hardy, and I go, "You keep lifting those weights, and I'll keep lifting my water. You slow down."
Right. But is it tapping muscles that maybe you haven't gotten to flex in a long time for yourself? Acting.
It's just another. It's chords, isn't it? It's just another sound there, and
you grow that mustache, and you are Jim Gordon. I've just finished 2 weeks ago, so it lived under my nose for about 7 months. But the thing, and the trouble with it is, of course, as a lovely story. I was at Thanksgiving. I take the kids to El Capitan. Does anyone, the West Coast, near Santa Barbara, and we go to this place, and it's a tradition where we camp, and it's glamping. Really, it's not camping. They're tents, and then there are these cabins. But we go and we take the kids and all the families and different people, the friends that I've made with the mums and dads with the school. We go and someone will do the turkey, and we'll bring desserts, or we'll make desserts, and then there'll be someone's the vegetables, the potatoes, and the things, and we get there and we cook this stuff, and there's a bonfire, the whole thing. It's very nice. So we will get together. And I ran into my dentist, who, it was his first year there. And he said, "Wow, this is a great place." And I said, "Yeah, I've been coming here for like 4 or 5 years, every year." I said, "It's fantastic." He said, "My son Jack is here. He's over there with his friends, and he absolutely loves Sirius Black." He says, "He's obsessed with Sirius Black and Harry Potter. Would you go over and surprise him and say hello? He will be thrilled." So I approached these kids who are sort of sitting there, and they've got their faces in these Game Boys. Like this. And I walk up to Jack, and I say, "Hello, Jack." And he kind of looks up like that, and I said, "I'm Sirius Black." And a kid at the end looked up from his Game Boy and said, "No, you're not. You're Commissioner Gordon." True story. So, yeah.
He's in for a reckoning when he gets a little bit older.
You know, a friend of mine actually, I stayed with many years ago. I was staying with someone in LA, and his kid was, I don't know, his kid was a little bit. It just had a lot of energy. He was a boy, you know. I mean, I know they want to give you medication, but he was a boy, and he was probably a bit bored. And he mentioned that Lee Harvey Oswald was living with him. And so they called the parents in. I think he's here. They called him into the headmaster's office. You know, and they said, we really want to talk about, you know, your son. And it's troubling that he says that Lee Harvey Oswald is living at the house with you. And my friend said, yeah, he's right. He is.
Do you find that I mean, just you know, through the Batman films and the Potter films, I mean, you're being introduced to, I mean, an entirely new generation of fans and fans who, you know, have not quite yet, you know, been exposed to you know, the other roles that you've played.
No, it's wonderful though. I mean, my fan base went from 40 to 4. You know, and they are the real. When you meet the Potter fans, oh, I mean, they're fabulous. Yeah.
Do you meet them though at 11, and then, you know, a few years later, the 15, 16, and by now they've seen a couple more of your movies, and they say, you know, you're not the same guy I thought you were.
You're not quite as nice as we thought you were. Yeah. But it's very. I've been really honest, extremely lucky, and to be in a franchise with the pedigree of you know, of Potter is just to get that in a career, you know, but to have that and Batman is you know, we've retired. It's the third one, and it's the end. I mean, for Chris, I think, and we retired on the last night. You know, I said, well, this is it, you know. And I got back to my trailer, and they had made me a shadow box. And it was Gordon's badge, his glasses, and underneath a mustache. And it was lovely and sad, kind of at the same time. But I think it must be a first that a mustache has ever been retired. Yeah.
When you put your imprints in at Grauman's Chinese Theater, you know, you put your hands and your feet and put your mustache in the same.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it will be in my hand.
So let's talk about Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy. We've got a couple of clips from the film, so why don't we'll show the first one and then we'll talk a little bit about it.
I'm retired, Oliver. You fired me.
The thing is, some time ago, before Control died, he came to me with a similar suggestion. That there is a mole. He never mentioned his suspicions to you?
No.
Oh, I just thought it was just you were his man, so to speak.
What did you say to him?
Well, I'm afraid I thought his paranoia rather got the better of him. He was going to put his whole house down. That bloody mess in Budapest. Damn it, George. It's your generation, your legacy. I would have thought if there's any truth in this, then he'd want to,
Where did you get this?
I didn't. Percy and his little cabal walked in with it.
Look, Control.
Shut up.
Style appalling. Patently a fabrication from beginning to end. Just could be the real thing.
Well, if it's genuine, it's gold dust. But its topicality makes it suspect.
Smiley is suspicious, Percy.
Where did it come from? What's the access?
A new secret source of mine.
But how could he possibly have access?
He has access to the most sensitive levels of policy making. We've named the operation Witchcraft.
Well, Percy and his pals bypassed our Smiley, gone straight to the minister. Percy has been allowed to keep the identity of his new friend top secret.
The lovely John Hurt.
Yeah, just that whole room. I mean, those are just really the best guys working in the business, aren't they?
Yeah, we emptied the National Theatre, I think. I've been a huge fan of John Hurt. I adore his acting from even before I had the idea that I wanted to be an actor. And so it's an ambition of mine, a career ambition fulfilled, to work with him. I was so nervous on the first day. It was like, John. And he is one of the most delightful human beings you could ever meet. He is the sweetest man. Yeah. So he does not disappoint. It was just a thrill for me. I was fanboy, I could quote dialogue from the movie.
Is there a little bit of Caligula in him? Is that
a little bit of that was yes, he was in I Claudius.
Yeah.
Yeah, a young. No, there's no. No, he's no, he's a lovely guy, and Colin, and I mean, what a room. Kieran Hines, the Irish actor, wonderful actor.
Yeah. Is that I hope you don't mind being reminded of this, but you and Colin were tipped very early on in your careers. There's a sort of classic cover story in the Face magazine, the Brit Pack.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Is that the first time that you've actually worked with him since you guys sort of were?
Well, we crossed paths on the Christmas Carol.
Right. Oh, right.
Very, very.
The Disney Christmas Carol movie.
I mean, when I met Colin, he was covered in ping pong balls and had all those dots on his face.
Right.
Yeah. So it's really, really the first time that I've encountered him.
Right. I mean, do you have moments on a project like this where you can sort of look at each other and take stock and feel like we've really we've made it, or do you not allow yourself to think like that?
Well, I think we felt that we were all fortunate to be in that room at that level of one's game, and be in the room with each other. We admired each other's work. So you are sitting there with these, I mean, I'm there at that table. I've got Kieran Hines next to me. I'm looking at Colin Firth. There's Toby Jones. Yeah. And then there's John Hurt at the head of the table. It's pretty fucking special. Yeah. You feel very sort of, very privileged. And of course the film it's Cold War and austere, but we had some laughs. John is a great raconteur, great storyteller, and Colin has he's got a naughty look in his eye. Colin got a bit of a twinkle.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I imagine it's inevitable you'll get asked this in the course of promoting a film like this, but does the original BBC adaptation and Sir Alec Guinness's performance, I mean, does that loom in your mind when you go into something like this?
Oh yeah, it's terrifying. I mean, I was offered, it was one of the rare occasions where I was offered a role outright. Thomas wanted me, and that's rare. And then even rarer to be offered Smiley in well, it's not even a remake, it's an original, in a motion picture, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. But I didn't, in theory, on paper, that's a yes, like that.
Right.
Yep, I'll do it, I'm there. And it wasn't for me because the ghost of Guinness was so loom large. And I remember the original series. Yeah. And he was a part of the establishment. He was such a much beloved actor. I certainly admired him and had seen the work, you know, all those Ealing comedies, great work he did, and he was the face of Smiley, considered by many, you know, to be the definitive portrayal of this character, of this very iconic character in this book. So that's very scary.
Right. How do you get around that? How do you then?
You know what I did? I said I wouldn't do it. Then I called up and said to my manager, "You haven't called them yet, have you?" Because he knows me. We've worked together for 22 years. So he said, "No, I haven't called them yet." I said, "No, I think I will do it. I'm thinking I'm going to do it." And he goes, "Okay, I'll call them." And then about 4 hours later, I would call him and I go, "Have you called them yet?" And he said, "No." And I said, "You know what? No, I'm not feeling it." And he said, "All right, tomorrow morning I'll call them. I'll tell you you're not doing it." And then of course it came around, and eventually I just called him and said, "I'm insane. I have to do this." Now, if you're a classical actor and you're going to play a classical role, you're going to play Hamlet. You have all the Hamlets that have come before you that are heralded. You know, there's Gielgud and Richard Burton and Ian McKellen, and you know, and it's the same with Romeo or the same with King Lear. So I sort of played a trick with myself and thought it's a classic role, and this is a reinterpretation. It's open for interpretation. Guinness was very successful in it, and that's how I walked the fire. I walked that fire.
Right.
You know, can I pull it off? Can I do it? You go through all of those. You know, you have all those insecurities. I mean, I do. I think it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's complacent. Otherwise, it's satisfaction where you're sitting and thinking, "I'm wonderful." You know, that's death.
Yeah.
It's death to you.
Is it a professional hazard that I mean, you can get attached to a character, you know, even before the deal is struck? That sometimes you're already sort of seeing yourself playing.
Oh yeah, that's happened and then things haven't worked out. Yeah, that happened to me. That happened to me a year and a half ago, where I did 6 weeks on a character, and then the film never happened. Yeah, and it's sort of a stillbirth. It's like, what do I do with this guy?
Yeah.
It's an odd. Yeah, it's an odd feeling. It's happened once or twice.
Well, on a happier note, I mean,
Yeah.
you've already gotten some fantastic, notices for this, and I don't want to jinx things, but I mean, I've heard some discussion of maybe even reprising the character in another
Yeah.
Smiley story.
Yeah, Smiley's People.
Right.
I would, I'm there.
Yeah. Is that? I mean, you've obviously, you've played Gordon a few times. You've played Sirius Black a couple of times, but that's sort of a new thing for you to get to actually play a character more than once.
Well, now my kids, I say, "What are you doing, Dad?" And I say, it's this script. It's from this book. It's called Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. And they say, "Do you die in it?"
That's the metric that they use. Does Dad die or not?
Do you die in the end? I said, "No, I live in this one,
Right.
son." Yeah. I love teasing kids. I love teasing the young kids, and I say, "You know what's on the other side of the veil?" Because Sirius Black goes through that veil, and he's gone. And I go, "I know what's on the other side of that veil." And these little 6-year-olds, they go, "What?" I say, "Batman." Jim Gordon.
Right.
It's on the other side. Right.
So we have about 10 minutes left, and you may have noticed they're starting to set up microphones where folks can line up and ask questions if people want to just start gathering. But I would like to ask you, if you have questions, just go to the microphone and line up there. Yes, now. But I just would like to ask before we start calling on folks, is there any role, Gary, that you'd still like to play? I mean, it seems like you've literally played everyone at this point.
It feels like it. Is it? I can't, off the top of my head. I can't. I mean, I'm happy with the association of Smiley at the moment. So, I'll rest there for a while.
Sir, you had a question?
Gary, 2 questions. For Harry Potter and Batman, what were Daniel Radcliffe and Nathan Gamble like from your point of view? And what's the plot for Dark Knight Rises? And what is it like from your perspective?
If you only want to answer the first one, I think it's okay.
What was Daniel
What
Radcliffe?
were Daniel Radcliffe and Nathan Gamble like from your point of view?
Are they adorable? No, they were lovely to work with. I'm still very good friends with Daniel, and we still keep in touch. The plot of The Dark Knight Rises. If I told you the plot, I would have to take you outside and shoot you.
Oh, and what was Nathan Gamble like in your point of view?
Who is it?
Nathan Gamble. He plays your son.
Yeah, I know him less. Yeah, I spent less time with him.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your questions. This side.
Hi.
Hello.
Well, at the beginning of the interview, you mentioned, and it's actually come up a couple more times, how you've been limited in a certain way by the industry and their perceptions and their lack of imagination. And I'm just curious, what are the roles that you are dying to play that no one's ever cast you in?
I don't know. Well, there's one I've got my eye on. That's a little ways off that I can't really talk about, but it's where I sing. We have our eye on that one. I would love to do it. I can't really. What I would like to. Yeah, I'd like to maybe sing and dance and exercise. To come, pop up in a different hole.
Or maybe an easier way to answer the question might be roles that have been dangled before you, or somebody else has a role that you've already seen.
Yeah, but I've got a few skeletons in the cupboard. I mean, there's movies that I've not done. There's roles that I've not done. I've turned down things for valid reasons at the time, and then someone else has played the role and has had a great career and become famous and very successful playing it. And it was one of them won an Oscar doing it. Actually, 2 of them won 2 Oscars. There were 2 in particular. That's the way the dice rolls in a career.
Okay, so singing and dancing.
I think singing and dancing would be.
Right, thank you.
You know, we have these really lovely theaters just a couple blocks down.
You have quite a few, don't you?
Yeah, 1 or 2. Have you ever entertained the idea of performing on one of those stages? Do those?
Yeah, I flirt with it. Yeah, yeah. And then something I get distracted, or But I'll maybe do it here. Come to Broadway at some point. Yeah.
On this side.
Maybe you could do an extended version of your singing and dancing from Dead Fish.
Can you what? Sorry.
Dead Fish. You're singing and dancing in Dead Fish. The movie.
Oh, in Dead Fish. Yeah. Have you seen Dead Fish?
Yeah.
I haven't seen Dead Fish. And
you haven't seen?
No, I've not seen everything I'm in.
Well, yeah.
Oh, no, someone said the other night I've made 60 movies. Is that right?
Sure. Yes.
You'll say anything, won't you?
Pretty much.
Yeah, Dead Fish. Well, it went straight to DVD, didn't it?
I don't even know. I just saw it on DVD though.
Yeah. But I do a little singing and dancing in that. Yeah.
My main question was, how did you get a chance to sing "You've Been Around" with David Bowie? Because I've heard that song and I didn't know the story behind it. And I love the song. So.
I know David, and then he had a guitar player with him, Reeves Gabrels, and he was doing a solo album, and he wanted to do one of David's numbers on that, and so I was fortunate. I got to sing with David Bowie. You know.
Thank you.
All in a day's work,
let
right?
me down. Good old David.
Hi. I absolutely love Know by Mouth, and actually about 10 years ago, I run a British theater company here, and about 10 years ago, your partner Douglas let us do an adaptation of it. Where is he? I'd love to meet him. Hi, Paula. Hi, nice to meet you. Which was fabulous, and I want to revisit it again, but I just want to know, are you going to be behind the scenes again? Are you going to be writing and directing and thinking again?
I'm doing something at the moment, and I'm hoping it's a couple of years away, but it's a good one, I think. I've been doing that, but it just kind of hasn't. The 10 years between a movie like The Contender and Smiley has really been. It's been 10 years of fantasy. It's Harry Potter and Batman. But I've been a single dad, and I've been bringing up two boys, and it was a decision I made really to either be a dad that was there and around or not. So I decided to be at home, and it was fortunate because you do a Potter, and then that afforded me a lot of time to be around. So, and you're so directing. You have to. Your life is like in every frame. It's so all-encompassing and so exhausting, and the commitment is 100%. And now they're getting. One's nearly 13, one's 14. And it's a little easier, I think now to get back to it. So that there's been that gap, but I hope to direct again. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you. Your work's always been a huge inspiration to me. I'm an aspiring actor myself, and I have a two-part question actually. What advice, if any, do you have for actors that haven't quite arrived yet? They're working to grind it out. If you could offer one piece of advice to us, what would it be? And then secondly, speaks to your process. You create such rich and vivid characters. Do you have a set process that you go through? Like, well, first I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to get his this, and then I'm going to get his that.
No, I don't have a set. As I said, each character that you play, it's whatever you need, whatever you. There was a passage in the book that was the key that opened the door for me for George, and I found him there. And I also was lucky enough to have access to John le Carré as a resource. I went and met him. I heard his voice. I thought, I like that sound, and he's the DNA of the whole thing, he wrote the thing. So there's no set. Drexel, I listen to rap music. And that's all in the car. Everywhere I went, I would absorb myself sort of in that at least that hip hop culture. So there's no set way of doing it. Sometimes it's photographs I use. Sometimes it's painting. Sometimes it's music. It can be a tactile thing. And then the clothes come later, and all of those things. Was you saying about advice or to give to an actor?
Right.
I think that I've worked recently with some very, very, very young people, and you're not going to come in as the old granddad and sort of. I think you could the fact that they may look up to you. I think you can abuse it. You know what I mean? And you take advantage of that. I'm not going to tell them how to do it, but I think you can do it through the power of example. So you don't have to lecture them, but I do turn up on time, and I've done my work, and I've got a good idea of what I'm going to do, and I know those lines, and my advice, you know, you can get all the other stuff from classes, and you can read Stella Adler, and you can read Meisner and perform and be in plays and whatever. But my advice would be you got to do the work. You got to do that, especially if you want to be in television or you want to be in movies. You get very little rehearsal time, so you have to come. You have to get there prepared, and that would be and get there on time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. This will have to be our last question.
Hi. I was just wondering, I love every piece of music I've ever heard that you've done. Is there any hopes that you'll be recording anything again soon?
Will there be?
I'm sorry, you're saying
music?
Music. Would you record music again ever?
I've not really recorded.
With like Jonathan Clark and
Oh,
and
yes.
all that great stuff.
You know, these things come my way, and they're like they're these odd things that come in, and are you familiar with a great tribute band called the Fab Four? People know the Fab Four? I love the Fab Four. I may step up and do something with them. But it's this weird stuff. It's like the Bowie thing. You know what I mean? It's not. I don't have a record career, but it's like Reeves said, "Would you come and sing this song?" And it's, you know, it sounds like a good idea. So yeah. There's some things with Jonathan. Perhaps. You know, my wife's a singer, and you know, like I shot her video. I mean, it's kind of, you know, something to do for a week, isn't it?
Thank you.
Can we have one more round of applause for the extraordinary Gary Oldman?